So hi from my side. I'm presenting the Siemens Technology Accelerator. I must admit we are definitely not a CVC, and we are probably neither what people would expect to be an accelerator nowadays. But this entity exists for 20 years now, and 20 years ago the names were slightly different, and we were funded as Siemens Technology Accelerator. So maybe to start, it's not so obvious what Siemens nowadays is actually doing. We have three core businesses. That is the digital industries. It's all about automation. We have smart infrastructure. That's all about grid software, traffic control and things. And then we have our mobility department, mainly with trains and all the facilities around that. In the last years, we had many carve-outs. Siemens Energy, Siemens Healthineers was one of them. We still have a majority in Siemens Healthineers, so they are not still part of Siemens AG, but with some distance. We have around 5 billion euros a year of R&D spending, and not all of the spending is very narrow, and not all of it is directly related to business units products. We are a central function, so we have the central R&D department called Technology, and within that we are an independent legal entity, Siemens Technology Accelerator GmbH, which makes us quite agile and allows us to move quite quickly when it comes to engage with freelancers, engage with partners, engage with investors, etc. So that's the background. What we are doing, probably anyone who has been in innovation have seen this funnel lots of times, but we still haven't found a better way to explain. We have all innovations, ideas coming up mainly within this 5 billion euro budget of R&D. And some of them don't make it to anything. Some of them make it into a Siemens product, but some are either clearly not to be a Siemens product, and some are in between. Some have an application within a Siemens product, but there are applications around that product too. So what we do is we take and have two ways to commercialize them. Either, and this is like the quick and easy way, we sell them or we license them out. The other way is that we build startups. We build our own startups. We invest some money, but we always seek for other external investors, independent investors, as we see it a little bit as a proof of viability, a proof of the product, a proof of the business model, to have externals in that too. And yeah, that's the two ways to actually build businesses. We have a horizon of 2 to 5 years for an exit typically. We still have shares in our very first startup, so we have a plan. Sometimes things don't go according to plan, but in general our horizon is to exit within 5 years. Where do we play? So we always start with the question, is this a Siemens market that is addressed by the technology? Yes or no? And is the technology used within Siemens? If both is yes, then it's kind of difficult for everyone who's part of a corporate. This is the field where it gets political, where there's a lot of alignments, a lot of questions. But the other fields are definitely our play fields. We either, when it's neither used nor a market, it's quite easy. We take and we're quite open to act. In the other fields, it always requires some alignments. We always, well, maybe or maybe starting with my entrance to Siemens, to STA, I was quite overwhelmed by the amount of innovative topics in general, by the viability of different topics which approached us. And I was also impressed that a company is willing to allow itself for very much of a fuzziness in the beginning. And so we are confronted with topics that received some severe investments, but still no one asked actually, is there a relevant problem, and is there a problem that is connected to some willingness to pay? So our very first questions are around that. Is there actually a client out there? In the case of software, we also try not only to interview potential clients, we also try to put in place very quick test contracts, trial agreements to actually implement little pieces, beta versions, test what we have with a other company and see if there's actually a relevant problem and a problem with willingness to pay by someone. The second question, patents is a huge thing at Siemens. Siemens in the past was regularly world champion in patent applications. And so every topic is basically, when you have an idea within Siemens, it's not a far way to have a patent application around that. So it's always the question, is there IPR that can be protected? As we see it as one of the unfair advantages when we found a startup we want to have is that we typically, for the stage of a startup, we start with a quite strong IP protection. The third is, as I mentioned, we see many ideas, but we typically just take projects, we take technologies once they reach a certain degree of maturity. Some kind of proof of principle should be there. Sometimes it's us taking a technology, making the last 10% to have this proof. So this is our approach in the initial phase. And then we, within Siemens, we claim to be a one-stop shop. We take everything but the technology aspect. So we have the technicians, we have the engineers developing, and everything else is done by us. We have legals, we have patent attorneys, we have freelancers to support. So we try to keep the technology people within the technology and do all around. We hire people when we build up a startup. We set up the legal entity, we do the paperwork, we do the negotiations as far as we can, and then we release the startups or the projects or the asset to the outside world. So to make it a little bit more tangible what we are doing, this was a project we did 2 years ago. We are still invested in Rethink Robotics. Rethink Robotics, I have to tell the story from two sides. There was a Rethink Robotics Inc. based in US. They developed, as one of the first, a robot arm, as you can see, which is supplemented with sensors, so you don't need a cage around. So this is called a cobot. And they did quite a nice job, but their hardware was, well, not so well perceived in the market, but their software definitely was. So they had this big asset of a good software. Unfortunately, the market didn't appreciate too much of it, so the US-based Inc. went bankrupt. The German RAG Stiftung who was already invested at that point, took over the assets and funded a German Rethink Robotics GmbH, but they were seeking actually to solve the problem. They had this asset, they had the robots, but still the problems with the hardware. That was the one part of the story. The Siemens part of the story was Siemens is not into robots. We don't build robots. We don't build robot arms, but what we do is we do control for robots. So we do the little computers telling the robot to move. We do the software within that, but we don't build actually. So our colleagues started to develop, and they found out if they want to make a good controller, they need to build the whole system by themselves, because everything they bought and they wanted to control was involving some black boxes that was not working. So they started building hardware. After some years of development, 20 patents later, they found out, oh, actually our hardware is quite comparable or even better than what is available in the market. So in the perspective from now, it looks like obvious, but these two things fitted well together. We made a package, and I think, so we transferred technology. We offered some R&D support. Basically, the Siemens engineers are engaged with Rethink Robotics. And I think a very important part of that was also this investment and this product story, like US software meets German hardware engineering. And they're about to launch this product this year. And I think this is a quite nice example where we got a share in a company based on a technology that was about to be just used for R&D within Siemens. And in this case, it's a particular case because we have RAG Stiftung as a majority shareholder. We are as a small minority shareholder. We had to make sure that we find an exit, so an option to sell in a few years once we are in the revenue was negotiated, and it looks like they are on track more or less. So this was one example. We had many around 40 cases, major cases. More recently, in the field of software, DRIMCO is natural language processing. We have topics around biosensors. We made projects with Boehringer Ingelheim to check blood on site. We have diverse sensors, we have hardware, we have software. So we are as Siemens is in various fields, we are also active in all of this. We have venture directors in certain fields who have their experience. And yeah, so that's us, that's what we do. I tried to think of, when Marco reached me, I told him I'm not so sure if our approach is somehow beneficial to CVCs. But I thought, just looking into our negotiations, I found it very nice that our offering, the package we bring into a startup or into a mature company, is always very subjective. It's very hard to value that for the counter side, for the other side. So our topic is typically not about the price. For me, it was a remarkable experience that the price was set quite early, but we negotiated about exclusivity, field of use, geographical extent of applications. We talked about marketing support, if we can introduce the product to Siemens. And this is much more dominant in the negotiations than price. And some of those, they basically don't cost us nothing, but are very beneficial to what we gain from that negotiations, from that participations. And the other point is, we had a lot of discussions in the last 2 days, strategic versus financial investments, and our investments untypically, but they always involve a very early buy-in of all the stakeholders. When we put some marketing support into the offer, then it's clear that we have this aligned internally, and then it's something to be aligned early, and then it's realized later on. Of course, everyone in the corporate world knows what the pitfall of that is: having more parties involved, having more discussions, having more prerequisites make things difficult. But up till now, we always found some solutions. I'm not aware of a project that we couldn't do because of kind of not aligning with our stakeholders. So that was about STA, Siemens Technology Accelerator. We are actually now piloting or thinking of whether this approach is also interesting for others. So if you are interested in exchanging ideas around that, please don't hesitate to reach us. Yeah, that was it from my side. I think the questions are to be asked later on the table.
Yes.